Welcome to the 159th broadcast of the T-Row Show. It's your host, Keith. We got a couple announcements to make first, about 3 of them, so let's get on it. We've got one here where it reads, Birth of the One World Religion, a Roman Catholic nun exposes Pope regarding the One World Religion. And she really does. All she's doing is quoting him. She exposes the Pope as a communist and pushing a demonic plan. So you might want to listen to this. It's well worth your time. 30 minutes. It's on the T-Row Show. You'll see it on the front page, the last posting. So very good, very good piece of work that she does. Watch out for this guy. Okay, this soldier for humanity at gmail.com. If you ever see that dude right there, that dude he's either one of two things. He's an extremely smart agent, or he's a complete whack job. Whoever that is, he or she has been emailing me for about 2 years. And let me read this to you first, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. And I won't spend a whole lot of time on this. It says this guy is using an email soldierforhumanity@gmail.com. Goes around to all the groups on the internet and sends his unwanted and unsolicited gaslighting assessment about what they're doing. And it's true. He's on every group you can imagine. He's everywhere. He claims to be an expert. However, continually tries to push people to start murdering each other. It is relentless, and we have plenty of evidence. I got 2 years of emails. He doesn't know that we keep all the emails. It says he pushes for everyone to take up arms and murder this guy and that guy. When you tell him to go away, he keeps stalking by email with gaslighting emails. Every time we go towards peace, okay, on this particular site, reignoftheheavens.com, first of all, I can't find his subscription email. So apparently what he's doing, he gets these emails in his email. Every time we put something in the newspaper. Apparently either somebody is forwarding it to him, or so you won't know, or he's got another email on the website that forwards to soldierforhumanity@gmail.com. I can't tell which. Either way, he still gets them. When he does, he comes back with these, stupid things. I thought they were stupid, but actually I realized what he was doing about 2 days ago. And that's what sparked this particular international public notice. It says, we have a report that his name is either Henry Martirano, of either Florida or New York. We know he's Sicilian. He was claiming that for a while. It says we figure he's an agent for the Vatican, because when we have a publishing about the Vatican, that's when the guy shows up. He always shows up right when I do that. When we do a publishing on the Vatican, that guy always has something to say. So I'm thinking, okay, he's a part of the Vatican. We know that. So he sends more gaslighting emails, constantly doing it. And what he's doing in the gaslighting emails, meaning he says, oh, that's not going to work. This isn't going to happen. You guys have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea. They're never going to give you back anything. You're not going to get anything done. You got to take it. He keeps saying that stuff. Okay. His just don't know which agency. So beware, because he visits every group he can and tries to corner them into committing a crime like murder or other form of domestic terrorism. That's what feds do. They go in there and they buy, they give you the bombs and they do all this stuff, the fake ones, and basically corner you. And this is what this guy's doing. So he says he claims to have his backpack at the door waiting to start his murder spree. And we have that email and other emails about 2 years claiming all kinds of nefarious things, trying to push you into committing horrific crimes. And he doesn't understand us. He doesn't understand who we are, what we're doing. He just does this, okay? So what he did the other day was when he thought there was something we were doing within the newspaper, I can't remember which one we did. When he thought we were going to go to violence, that's when he started praising. And I go, oh, man, how I understand what's going on. This guy's trying to train me. Okay, so if we go to peace, he poops all over that. Okay, he craps all over it. There's no way. You don't know stuff. He starts gaslighting. You don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. That's gaslighting. But when he thinks you're going to violence, oh, yeah, praise. Oh, that's it. Now you're getting it. Now you understand. You're smart if you go to violence. That's the message he's trying to get out. You're smart if you go to violence, but you're just dumb. You don't know what you're doing if you're going to peace. You have no idea. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so watch this guy. I know one of two things. If you rebuke anything in the name of Jesus going towards him, he throws that out. He calls that religion as BS. So we know he's a devil worshiper, and he's into devil worship. We know that that part, and we know that he's trying to get on record something saying that you're going to commit some kind of act of violence. Because at first I thought it was just a whack job. You tell him to go away, stop emailing, stuff like that. He doesn't. He just does it. He doesn't care. So he's assigned. So he's been assigned to reignoftheheavens.com. He's been assigned to that by his agents or whoever assigns him things. That's why he won't go away. Or he's a stalker. We don't know. There's two things that you can think there. He's a stalker, and just some kind of nut job that doesn't have a life, or he's an agent that's been assigned. That's why he doesn't go away. So we figured he's an agent that hasn't been, or he's been assigned to it. Because people always separate reign of the heavens from the United States of America and the government thereof. They don't understand it's the relationship between the two, even though they are separate. They think that one, because they don't know anything, they think one's like a cult or something, and the other one is something else. They don't know. It's hilarious to watch them, especially agents and especially SPLC people and communists. The dumb as hell, right? They don't do any research. They don't do anything. They have no idea what they're talking about, and they just talk stuff. They say stuff, and they don't know what they're saying. So when you see this, he or she will never say his name. They'll never tell you every name that you come up with. We got a couple of other ones that's associated with that email. So he's stealing identities online, using people's identities, because there are two people named Henry Mortarano or whatever. There are two people like that. Yeah, Martirano. One guy's 64 and the other guy's 80. I think one's in Connecticut or New York or something. The other one's in Florida. And then he always says, "Oh, those are fake names." So he steals people's identity. And he's got two women's identities and another guy, Brad Cooper. So watch that guy. If you're ever talking to him, don't trust anything he says. He's going to push you, and he's going to try to get you to go to some sort of crime on the internet, or some sort of speaking about things you're going to do to hurt people or murder people in email. And he thinks that because it's your email, he thinks he's doing it in the private. He won't come out in the public and say anything. He's always in the private. So just watch out for the guy. If he's on your platform and you pick it up, and he's got a certain MO he does, and you'll be able to pick that up, because it's always, you people are stupid, you people are this, you people are that. You got to go. These people you're going to have to go out and take what you got, take what you want. But basically, what he's been doing is this. He's been saying, I've been trying to tell him. I told him one time, I said, "Dude, number one, I'm not under the Constitution of the United States." I go, "Oh, you think I'm under the Constitution of the United States? I'm not." All right, let me show you the document that I'm a part of. Okay, and this is the Articles of Confederation, 1781, as amended, all these different times. Okay, if they were amended at November 14, 2011, obviously there was another copy. August 5th, 2015 was the last time we did this, in the style for this national government. Okay, I've signed this. I have nothing to do with the Constitution of the United States. This document was never succeeded by the Constitution of the United States, because the Constitution of the United States was passed in secret. It was a private company thing. Everybody knows that. Anybody knows history knows that. Okay, so I told him that. That doesn't make him go away. So I go, okay, all right. Yeah, he's got to be an agent. He's got to be an agent. There's no way that this guy is not an agent, because he never goes away. He stalks you. And you're trying to tell him, "Dude, I don't really care what you say. Go away." And he keeps coming back, keeps coming back, keeps coming back. So Just realize that's what that guy is. So, I told him, I said, look, whatever, if you think we have a relationship or something that's non-existent, don't know who you are and don't care, just go away. And you think after a while, a guy would just get the hint, I'm not really listening to what you're saying. He just doesn't go away. But then I realized, there's a reason. So the only thing I can guess is, the only thing I can say is the man's an agent and he's trying to get some people thrown in jail. And so watch out for him because he'll set you up. Okay, now I've got another one here, just another announcement. It's something different. A lot of people, I don't think I really understand what's going on here, but something different. The Rain Bulletin is a different kind of newspaper. It has the authority to publish legal notices and public notices. The owner of the newspaper had an idea. Since it is so expensive for people and companies to publish notices in the newspaper, and folks, it is, the cheapest one I've ever found or saw would be $40. The other ones all the way up to $150, $750, $2,000, all this stuff, okay? It says, why don't the newspaper rent those companies and individuals an expandable legal and public notice section in their newspaper? So instead of trying to sell subscriptions to newspapers, why don't you sell legal sections to newspapers? So rent them to the people, okay? So they can have their own, they can put out public notices as much as they want. It says it can cost up to $20,000 per publication and between $150 and $2,500 just for a simple legal or public notice. And that's absolutely true. Go check it out. It says the Rain Bulletin charges just $10 per month for your own legal and public notice section. And what this does is like if you're in the middle of a court case, every motion that you put in can be put in the newspaper at the same time as long as the other side knows you're doing it. And said this is not a private court, folks. And I'll get to the private court in a minute. It says, to further top it off, it says the Rain Bulletin staff will review your notice to make sure it is written correctly before publishing so that something that is written in the notice won't come back and cause a liability in the future. A lot of people put public notices in the newspaper that have some liability that they shouldn't have written. So the Rain Bulletin staff does not guarantee the review will thwart a liability or a lawsuit. However, it is better to have more eyes on the notice to at least make sure it does read how it is supposed or was intended to read before publishing. So that's called rainbulletin.com, rain, R-E-I-G-N, bulletin.com. It's a new idea that I believe will work. It's going to, I believe it will. There's a public and legal notices there. These are some of the people that that have already rented some spots, and they it shows how many hits you get on your stuff. Okay, so at any rate, there you go. If you're interested in something like that, go to rainbulletin.com. All right, I've got some really, really good information for you guys today, and I think you guys are going to really like it because it does solve a lot of problems that it clears up things. So basically what I'm saying here is this: when you have one thing, you think of something in one way, and when you hear it in this different way, it all starts making sense. You're like, oh my God, now you can put it together. Okay, so we're going to explain the New World Order here in just a second and how this thing is set up. So it says war is at present published and declared by manifestos. So have you ever heard of the Communist Manifesto? A lot of people may have not heard of the Communist Manifesto. Okay, so let's find a Communist Manifesto so people can see that. All right, let me see if I can get you some sound here. Before we go to the Communist Manifesto.
Thomas Aquinas tells us to love both those whose opinions we share and those whose opinions we reject.
It's back and forth because each one of them has. There's always a lie.
For they all help us in our search for truth.
let's look at this again and without any sound and see if you saw it. It's the University of Notre Dame. Such wonderful people. Let's see if you saw it. There's no sound now. There you go. Have you seen it? You looking at it? Let's try that again. And there's the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. Okie doke. So there you go. That is a war document. That is a communist declaration of war, according to the Law of Nations. You notice that they never put it out there like that. They call it an opinion. And then they go into diversity and say, oh, you're just not acceptance. Remember acceptance? Past T-Row shows dealing with Indian religion. Acceptance of the other people's opinions. No, that is a war document. He's reading, Communist Manifesto. Okay, notice they put it, the white guy, right? You know how they are about that. So if you look back at the Law of Nations, you'll say, war is at present published and declared by manifestos. Those pieces never fail to contain justificatory reasons, good or bad, on which the party grounds his right to take up arms. So there's no manifestos. So the whole country's at war and they don't understand. There's no manifesto. Where is the declaration of war, meaning the manifesto? The Constitution, their Constitution says that they abide by the Law of Nations. Ours says that we're subject to the Law of Nations. That means you have to have a manifesto in order to declare war. Okay, nobody's read it other than the Communist Manifesto. And I thought, how did the United States, they've always been communist? Possibly, all the way back. It says, least scrupulous sovereign would wish to be the thought, just, equitable, and lover of peace. He is sensible to that a contrary reputation might be detrimental to him. The manifesto is implying a declaration of war, or the declaration itself, printed, published, and circulated throughout the whole state, contains also the sovereign's general orders on his subjects relative to their conduct in the war. Okay, so you have the Communist Manifesto, and it has to have general orders. Well, I haven't seen any manifesto of the United States or from the United States, and I haven't seen any general orders. So is there a war or isn't? Who the hell knows? I do know that the universities really love promoting communism, which is illegal, by the way, and against the law. So here we go. Where does this take us? Where do we go to next? So all we got to do, okay, all we got to do is go to where? Oh, the Bankers Manifesto. Congressman, now this is the Bankers Declaration of War since 1892. Says Charles A. Lindbergh Sr. revealed the Bankers Manifesto of 1892 to the U.S. Congress somewhere between 1907 and 1917. Says, we, the bankers, must proceed with caution and guard every move made, for the lower order of people are already showing signs of restless commotion. Prudence will therefore show a policy of apparently yielding to the popular will until our plans are so far consummated that we can declare our designs without fear or any organized resistance. That's when they go to full communism. So the bankers are at war, and they are forming a communist country. They're trying to, at least. Organizations in the United States should be carefully watched by our trusted men, and we must take immediate steps to control these organizations in our interest or disrupt them. At the coming Omaha Convention to be July 4th, 1892. That's what? Oh, that's their Declaration of Independence, right? July 4th. That other Declaration of Independence, there's two of them. Our men must attend and direct its movement, or else there will be set on foot such antagonism to our designs as may require force to overcome. This, at the present time, would be premature. We are not yet ready for such a crisis. Capital must protect itself in every possible manner through the combination, conspiracy, and legislation. The courts must be called to our aid. Debts must be collected. Bonds and mortgages foreclosed as rapidly as possible. When through the process of law, the common people have lost their homes, it will be more traceable, tractable, and easily governed through the influence of the strong arm of the government applied to a central power of imperial wealth under the control of the leading financiers. People without homes will not quarrel with their leaders. History repeats itself in regular cycles. This truth is well known among our principal men who are engaged in forming an imperialism. That's an imperial. You've heard the southern countries of America talk about imperialism of the world. That means they're fighting the bankers. While they're doing this, the people must be kept in a state of political antagonism. Oh, left versus right. The question of tariff reform must be urged through the organization known as the Democratic Party. And the question of protection, so the Democratic Party is helping the bankers, right there. And the question of protection with the reciprocity must be forced in view through the Republican Party. And the question of protection with the reciprocity must be forced to view through the Republican Party. So does that mean the Republican Party is protecting the Democratic Party? Don't know. By thus dividing voters, we can get them to expend their energies in fighting over questions of no importance to us, except as teachers to the common herd. Thus, by discrete actions, we can secure that all has been so generously planned and successfully accomplished. From the politics of common sense, the above was taken from the Bankers' Manifesto for the private circulation among leading bankers only, taken from the Civil Servants Yearbook, the organizer of January 1934. The Bankers' Manifesto ties with the U.S. Senate document number 43, 73rd Congress, First Session, 1934. So the ultimate ownership of all property is in the state. Oh, that is a communist government right there. Everything's communist. Individual so-called ownership is only by virtue of government, okay? Amounting to mere user, and use must be acceptance with law and subordinate to the necessities of the state. Oh, the state needs it. We got to give it to them. The following is quoted from John Perkop of the Coalition of Constitutional Washington. The plan is to control all resources, human and natural. That's when we knew when the Indians were protesting the oil pipeline, we knew they were not going to win. The control is not by elected public officials, but by self-appointed oligarchy. The control is not by elected public officials, but by self-appointed oligarchy. Council on Foreign Relations. This is born out of by reading the details of Article 21 and 39 of the Convention on Biological Diversity. This treaty declares there are no reservations of rights. Article 21 mandates that 3 international organizations, the UNEP, UNDP, and the World Bank, will direct and control the policy, strategy, program priorities, and eligibility criteria related to access to the utilization of resources in each member country. Oh, through the what? United Nations. Member country. The Bankers' Manifesto of 1934, capital must protect itself in every way, through combination, through legislation. In other words, they're the ones passing the law to protect itself. Debts must be collected and loans and mortgages foreclosed as soon as possible, every 3 months. That's what happens. When through a process of law, the common people have lost their homes, they will be more tractable and more easily governed by the strong arm of the law applied by the central power of wealth under the control of the leading financiers. People without homes will not quarrel with their leaders. Okay. So this is well known among our principal men now engaged in a form of imperialism of capital to govern the world. Okay, remember, these are capitalists using communism to control. By dividing the people, we can get them to expend their energies fighting over. Okay. So today's power grab is not by chance that millions of Americans have lost their homes during the tenure of a current President of the United States. Actually, that was done, I think, for Obama. It says there's a great power grab underway, and the people without personal savings or homes are more easily controlled. It is not by a chance that some banks of the Pujo Commission sought to limit their power are today a major beneficiaries of the current financial crisis. JP Morgan Chase received assets of the Lehman Brothers in a deal brokered by the government and the Federal Reserve. Okay, I'm just going to call that, it's not really a government because it's their company. Okay, that's the bankers' companies. They get rid of governments because now how can you say that? Well, the United States is registered with the Federal Reserve, or no, registered with the stock market. When you register the United States with the stock market, it no longer has a government. It has it's a company. It's a private company claiming to be a government. That's called fascism. All right, Washington Mutual, AIG, and Wachovia Bank are also being consolidated into an even ever smaller number of super banks that are all controlled by a cabal of bankers. The same cabal that control the Federal Reserve. Okay, a cabal of bankers. I am a most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. Our system of credit is concentrated, the growth of the nation. Therefore, all of our activities in the hands of a few men. We have come to be one of the worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled and dominated governments in the civilized world. No longer a government of free opinion. No longer and you never were, by the way, a government of by conviction and the vote of a majority, but a government by the opinion and duress of a small group of dominant men. That was Woodrow Wilson, who signed the Federal Reserve Act. Okay. Now, we always said that everything was a trust. It was a trust offshore. It's an Internal Revenue Trust. There's about 67 of them or more all over the world, which is where all your assets are. It says this act, the Federal Reserve Act, December 23rd, establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When the president signs the bill, the invisible government of the monetary power will be legalized. The worst legislative crime of the ages is perpetrated by this banking and currency bill. Okay, so the most gigantic trust on earth. So everything's dealing with the trust. Everything. And you have the trustees. So we'll show you where the trustees are, and we can go from there.
Here in Honolulu. You know, I was watching the floor debate on the impeachment today as much as I could stand. I'm not political. I'm not trying to get involved. I'm not going to express my opinions. But what you have to remember about this is that it is all theater. And there are always things going on at a much higher level with evidence of those higher levels right in front of your very eyes. Let's take a look at a screenshot of Nancy Pelosi kicking off the show. Here it is. This is the rostrum at the House chamber at the U.S. Capitol. Did you ever wonder who are the two people seated in between the columns behind the speaker's chair? And speaking of the columns, what do they represent? So I contacted one of my sources who understands both the power structure of the world administration and the symbols of that power. And I was told these two chairs are occupied by trustees of the corporation. They are witnessing the proceedings as representatives for the ultimate controllers. The backdrop represents a temple. You see the columns with "In God We Trust" inscribed above.
Okay, the temple in the background, if you go to Mosaic law, you'll find that. There was an inner temple and an outer. And that was where the courtroom happened. It's under Moses, Mosaic law. That's why you have the Ten Commandments and Moses on the U.S. Supreme Court. And that's where the bankers are. The trustees right here and right here, these are trustees for the bankers. That's all that's going on.
With 12 stars, the number 12 represents the planets in our solar system. Who says there are 12 planets? Oh, look that one up. I'm told the columns are Roman pillars. Roman pillars, Roman law. In between the black columns, the pillars, mounted on the wall, you see the fascia, A fascia is a bundle of sticks with an axe attached, wrapped in laurel branches. This is Roman symbology. This means the temple is under Roman law. Fascia is the root word, by the way, of fascism. Fascism, an all-powerful, all-embracing state run by corporations. Well, whoever is sitting there...
That's actually not true. It's the state that is actually those trustees of the corporation. He had that correct. As trustees of the corporation, but that corporation operates and claims to be a state. That's a fascist state.
Inside the columns in the temple, those are members of the corporation that are running this place, or representatives of them. They're in the background listening to what the elected officials decide. You see, they are just listening. Is all of this true? I did some more research. Let's look up the official House documents that explain what is what and who sits where in the U.S. House chamber. This is it. Here it is. All the significant things are numbered. Number 1 is the flag. All right. Number 2, the speaker's rostrum.
Okay, folks. Now he says number 1's the flag. Did he just not say that this was a spot that the trustees of the corporation? That means it's a corporate flag. It's not a company, or it's not a nation or a state. It's a corporate flag. We've been saying this for years.
Number 3 shows the bronze fascia. Number 4 is the mace. That's the eagle on a shaft, which represents the authority the House Sergeant at Arms has. Another Roman symbol, by the way. But there is no reference to the 2 seats between the columns. No mention of who sits there or why. You see, the Speaker of the House is in front of the temple. The Speaker is not in the temple. Only the 2 seats for the trustees and administrators of the corporation are in the temple. Everyone else is in front of the temple. They are making law before the gods, like saying, I'm standing before you. The law you make out there doesn't apply inside the temple. You're not allowed to enter the temple. You people out there, you're under different laws. The desks are...
Okay, so he's saying that out here right now, what I've been trying to tell you is this is all communism out here now. They're changing it to communism. Instead of just corporate run, they're going to run it into communism. All the capital is in the temple, being hidden by the bankers, and that is where all of your property is. And we're going to show you how to fix that problem here in just a minute.
Are set up on different planes. The first plane has 7 seats. The next higher plane has 4 seats. And the higher plane, the 12th seat, that's the speaker. Above all that, even above the pillars, the sun, represented by the golden plaque, is above the temple, representing the vicar, the pope, just below the reference to God, or the gods. The number 12 is featured prominently in all of this. The common folk down below, they walk on a blue carpet representing water. They're under maritime law. What's happening outside the temple, on the floor of the house, and even on the rostrum, has no effect on real law under which we reside. And the impeachment thing is theater. Enjoy the show. Don't let it get you all worked up. My best advice, laugh at it.
Yeah, he tells you to laugh at it. It's actually good advice. When you start laughing, you don't pay attention. All right, it's going to be a last document tonight. On this for this program. This is going to show you what the rules are when it comes to what's going on and how these guys are playing. Okay, so does everybody get the idea now? The bankers, when you sign the promissory note and they deposited it into their account as a plus, wrote a check off of it, they just took your assets, everything that you're actually going to make and will make, and they're keeping it in a trust being managed by the Northern Trust Corporation, which is nothing more than a bunch of lawyers that are doing it on behalf of the city of London. Rothschild, who bought Jerusalem back in 1824. And that's where the Pope comes in. He's coming in and he's taking power of attorney for Jerusalem. But really what he's doing, he's setting up a demonic system, which is one world religion, or one religion called humanism. Okay? So there's a couple of things that everybody's missing in this, and I'll show you what that is here in a minute. All right, this was sent to me today by the friend of mine. It says, captor state is war. It says, one who has taken property from an enemy. Now, remember, it's been known that all the citizens of the United States or U.S. citizens were declared enemies under this Bankers Manifesto when they brought it in. It says, this term is also employed to designate one who has taken an enemy. That means you, your person. Formerly, goods taken in war were adjudged to belong to the captor. They are now considered to vest primarily in the state or the sovereign. So that's why they said everything is state property. Now all this start coming together with the law of nations. And belong to the individual captors only to the extent that the municipal laws provide. Now, captors are responsible to the owners of the property for all losses and damages. When the captor is tortious and without reasonable cause in the exercise of belligerent rights. But if the capture is originally justifiable, the captors will not be responsible unless by subsequent misconduct they become trespassers ab initio. Okay? So basically what they're saying is this. This is what the bankers are operating under. But here's the most obvious question. And this question will free your mind, which is exactly what the T. Rose Show is all about. Get you to think for yourself, get you to ask questions, and let's look at the obvious and most common sense question on earth. Where in the law do bankers who hold people's money in trust for them and keep it safe, and they charge a fee every month, which is nothing more than a lease or a rent, to keep your money, and that way the bank is insured if it gets robbed and all these things. If you get robbed, you're not insured. Where in the world, in what law, does it read that a private banker can declare war or has the authority to do so? I've read The Law of Nations. I've read quite a few books. I have never seen that authority where a banker can declare war. Matter of fact, every banker in the local area can be arrested right now, right this second, for this kind of crap. And everybody's property is free and clear. Even your former property and all that. See, you don't have to go blow everything up. You don't have to go shoot everything. That's what we keep trying to tell people. We were trying to tell Soldier for Humanity. If he's Soldier for Humanity, I'd hate to have him because all he wants to do is murder people, kill people and stuff. You can go arrest a banker for operating under the Bankers Manifesto, declaring war. If you look at an overview of a town, you'll notice that most, if not all, the houses have loans on them. That means the bankers have a controlling interest in those towns, every one of the towns. If you think about it, they're owning everything. And they're handing it to a state, not the state, a state they created out of thin air. All they had to do was change your reality. And that was it. That's all they had to do. That's the obvious question, folks. Now we're going to end this in just about 7 minutes. I wanted you to hear what this guy has to say.
With Mr. Yuri Alexandrovich Bezmenov. Mr. Bezmenov was born in 1939 in a suburb of Moscow. He was the son of a high-ranking Soviet Army officer. He was educated in the elite schools inside the Soviet Union and became an expert in Indian culture and Indian languages. He had an outstanding career with Novosti, which was the, and still is, I should say, the press arm or the press agency of the Soviet Union. It turns out that this is also a front for the KGB. He escaped to the West in 1970 after becoming totally disgusted with the Soviet system, and he did this at great risk to his life. He certainly is one of the world's outstanding experts on the subject of Soviet propaganda and disinformation and active measures. Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets use the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism.
Okay, so you have your first charge, demoralization against a banker. That's what he's arrested for. All right, let's move on.
And patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems.
Okay, so the next charge against the banker is destabilization. So demoralization and destabilization. These were all done by the banker. So you lay the blame where the blame belongs.
And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world, that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis.
Okay, that's the real estate bubble, crisis, this crashes, this crisis has happened, we've got a gun crisis, we got all this kind of stuff. Okay.
You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not.
That's where you had Obama when they were trying to get rid of competition, when they had Obamacare and he was forcing you to buy it. That's getting rid of competition and putting all other, just an example, all over other insurance companies out of business. So that's that. Oh, and keep in mind, remember that they're giving out driver's licenses to illegals in New York. Well, that's because it's not a driver's license. It can't legally exist as a driver's license. That's why it's a Communist Party membership card. I keep telling people that. And you can't vote without a driver's license. Think about it, folks.
Your leftists in United States, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation. When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much. Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot. But they may turn into the most bitter enemies of Marxist-Leninists when they come to power. And that's what happened in Nicaragua. You remember most of these former Marxist-Leninists were either put to prison or one of them split, and now he's working against Sandinistas. It happened in Grenada when Maurice Bishop was already a Marxist. He was executed by a new Marxist who was more Marxist than this Marxist. Same happened in Afghanistan when first there was Taraki, he was killed by Amin, then Amin was killed by Babrak Karmal with the help of KGB. Same happened in Bangladesh when Mujibur Rahman, very pro-Soviet leftist, was assassinated by his own Marxist-Leninist military comrades. It's the same pattern everywhere. The time bomb is ticking with every second. The disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to.
You'll have nowhere to go, folks. That's all that happens. Nowhere to go. And this is why we do these videos, to wake people up, to help people understand, put it all together, get a story behind it so you understand what's going on. Why this stuff is so, you cannot tolerate it. It's become normalized. It's become normalized to beat somebody up for wearing a hat. It's become normalized to call, if someone disagrees with you, call them racist. If they just disagree with you. And it's terrorism from a communist party, which is the Democratic Party today. Terrorism from them has become normalized. It's okay to for a SWAT team to bust into your house. Well, you must have done something wrong. You know, that's normalized. It's normalization. That kind of stuff is normalization. You're normalizing violence and death and all these things. And that's what was happening with this soldier for humanity. He was trying to normalize destroying things and all this other kind of stuff. So what he was doing was trying to turn me into a communist, Leninist, Marxist. So then I would pass that along to everybody else within the government of the United States of America and then turn it into what they wanted it to be. That was apparently the plan. Well, guess what? Didn't work. So there it is. There you go. So thanks for listening to the 159th broadcast of the T-Rose Show. We will see you next week.